Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to yet another episode of the Youth Cafe podcast, and I'm your host, Shali Jemeli. An author called Audre Lorde once said, "Your silence won't protect you," and evidently, Kenyans, especially the youth, understood the assignment. And just to let you know, our adjectives today are occupy, reject, salimia, nikumoto manze. Yeah, and our topic is quite intriguing. It's educative, insightful, and interesting as well. And with me here today in the building are the Gen Zs. And they're not only Gen Zs, they are well-informed, well-spoken, and very vibrant Gen Zs. By now, you should be ready for the tea, because Mimi, I'm ready for Tuesday. Very ready for Tuesday. Let's get into it. Karibuni sana. Please tell us who you are, where you're from, what you do, and any other information you'd like us to know about you.
Hello everyone, my name is Kimberly Fiona. I work at the Center for Fiscal Affairs. Center for Fiscal Affairs is a think tank that deals with fiscal transparency and accountability. We encourage public participation, and we want to hold the government accountable by empowering the citizens to be more aware about their civil rights and be able to participate in forums that ensure accountability. Yes.
My name is John Moshori from Bunge Mashinani. I'm the program coordinator. I come from Ruiru, sub-county in Kiambu County, and specifically from Kawendani Ward. I'm a community champion. I champion for a people's platform known as Town Hall. This Town Hall, I champion for people to establish it, to own it, for them to be able to have a platform to participate meaningfully. Apart from that, yes, I ran the initiative of Town Hall. It is a new concept. A concept that we have seen our president, trying to push. But where I stand is, I feel that the citizens must take charge of these platforms. Thank you very much.
Betty Kimani here is my name, from Kikuyu constituency, Kikuyu ward, representing Bunge Mashinani School of Governance. Like you've had my senior here, Bunge Mashinani School of Governance is the public participation arm and civic education arm of Bunge Mashinani initiative. And at Bunge Mashinani School of Governance, we train community civic educators to be the change makers at their grassroots. This we train on a 3-month training on the principles of county governance course, that we train citizens to be able to come out and speak so that we can have citizen-centered developments. Other than that, I am an ex-MCA vying for Kikuyu ward. I am a mother, and I am a gender-based violence advocate. I'm also a community leader representing the youth in my community, and I'm a governance expert.
So before we get into our topic today, which is the Anti-Finance Bill 2024 Activism, I'd like us to punguza pressure, to attention. Yeah. If you were to have a casual chat with any of the Kenyan politicians, whether past or present, who would it be, and why would you choose them, and what would you tell them?
I will choose to chat with the former governor, Makueni County, Honorable Kivutha Kibwana. Honorable Kivutha Kibwana is the real kind of representation that we would want as a country, and he also gave people the space to express themselves and to exercise their rights in terms of the constitutional rights that have been given. One being the public participation. He made public participation look like the real representation of the people, and I would like each and every other leader to emulate him and to make public participation, because it is the greatest provision in the Constitution of Kenya 2010. I I would like each and every other leader to emulate his kind of leadership style and the way he lets people express and takes concerns.
I'll just be frank and say, if I was given a chance to have a conversation with a leader who was there, who is currently a position, it is Professor Kibwana. And I think there's a great platform to articulate who he actually is. Professor Kibwana really showed us, the people, that he is a leader who serves the people, that the people comes first in his leadership. Yeah. If you see what he did in Makueni, the legacy that he left, even the current governor cannot meet him. Yeah. Another thing about Professor Kibwana, he's very humble, an humble leader, a servant of the people. If I was given even more than 2 times chances to meet a leader, that could be my leader. Because right now, the way we are speaking about the Gen Zs and the young people, we are looking for someone who's going to implement the Constitution. Our problem is the implementation of the Constitution. And he did it well while he was a governor. There was a moment that MCAs wanted to ouster him. And he told the MCAs that, I will accept to that. But for a fact, when we go back to the ballot, I will come back. Because I know where I stand, and I stand with the people.
Thank you so much for the question. I am surprised that we're all thinking about the same person. Now that after all they've said, it makes it a bit difficult for me to have an input. But for me, again, it's what stood out for me about Professor Kivutha Kibwana was his servant leadership. You know, most of the time when people get into power, especially in Kenya, we understand that in the morning we were having a discussion, and then we were saying that most people in Kenya do not understand the difference between a politician and a leader. And we saw in Professor Kivutha Kibwana, he wasn't actually a politician, he was a leader. This is somebody who vied for a seat because he knew the kind of change he wanted to be. When we change starts with me, I feel like Kivutha Kibwana embodied that phrase of, change starts with me. So when he was going there, he was intentional. And I feel like that's why we saw the kind of, development that went on in Makueni. And that's why most people do their pilot study with Makueni. But even after all the pilot study, I'm yet to see a county that has been able to get close to, meeting its developmental achievements as close as Makueni County. Yeah.
Mimi, I think I'd look for Kawera Mwangaza being impeached thrice in a span of 2 years. Hey, mambo ni mengi. Okay, now let's get to our topic. And so we'd like to know, what is activism? Who is an activist? And what is the essence of activism?
Okay, what I understand by the term activist is someone who speaks to power with courage, someone who speaks to power without any fear of contradiction, someone who speaks to power to seek answers to issues that actually are affecting the people, and the same people are afraid to speak out. So they stand up for the communities, they stand up for these people and speak on their behalf. Activist is someone who is an active citizen, right? In matters governance, in matters human rights, in matters anything that touches the well-being of the people.
When I hear the word activist or activism, what comes to my mind is a champion. You're championing for something. It's you standing up for a cause, whatever the cause is, you understand? So, but in this context, we are championing for a transparent governance, and government in terms of how they use, public expenditure and resources, provision of public services and such kind of stuff, because we've seen in Kenya, most of our leaders do not want to be held accountable. The moment you start such kind of conversations, it becomes an issue of you being intimidated, being threatened. And you've also asked who's an activist. So an activist is anyone who's willing to stand up for the truth and ask the necessary questions. Because most of us wants to be, just thrown around without seeking any accountability or asking for that accountability from the people who are elected into office. So if you ask me who's an activist, it doesn't have to be people like us who work in the space where we are trying to hold and champion for this kind of transparency and accountability, but it could be anyone. It could be a young boy, a young girl in the village, somebody uko interior ndani ya Marsabit who's actually taking their time to educate the public and let them know the importance of, certain cause. It doesn't have to be governance. It could be things on period poverty. It could be anything, but you believe in it to a point where you'd want people to be aware of it and actually take part in those kind of, sessions and things like public participation. You get?
For me, an activist is a person who speaks out for injustices. Some of us have been tagged activists in our communities. Why? Because we do not keep quiet to injustices. We speak out. We represent the voices of the unheard people, and that has given us a definition of who activists are. Speaking out on behalf of those people who are voiceless, the marginalized, the PWDs, women, is a representation of a voice that needs to be heard but cannot be heard. So an activist is that person who comes out to play as a person who speaks out for them. Yes.
We've had protests before, but what makes the Anti-Finance Bill 2024 protests outstanding?
Thank you so much for that. So what made this protest stand out? I know you saw on social media we were saying we are triballess, leaderless, and all those kind of phrases. But what actually made this protest really stand out is for the first time there was no politician who mobilized the people to be on the street. The people who felt that it was time, because we had tried the dialogues before. If you had been watching the news, most of the media stations had held various discussions on the state and how the country and the citizens were feeling about the new finance bill, right? And we had seen, despite the fact that we had voiced and we had implied that we are not satisfied and we did not want the implementation of the new finance bill, the government clearly was not keen to listen to the voice of the people. And they thought it is business as usual. Because most of the time, walikuwa wanajua we complain under the water, under the radar, and then nobody does anything. We just complain, then kasheshe, then the story is over, right? And you see, that's even when the protests were happening, the government was caught off guard because they assumed it's business as usual until this particular time. And for people like us who went to Maandamano on the first day, we were not as many, on the first Tuesday of the Maandamano, because people also were not sure that we were serious about going on the street. But the second time that we went, now on Thursday, after proper mobilization of people on Twitter, between Wednesday and that Thursday, we saw there was a huge increase. And that's when we were saying, Occupy Parliament. They thought, these people cannot actually come to Occupy Parliament. But we saw that history was done. And for the first time that the Kenyans people decided, without being mobilized by anyone or the politicians saying, Mwenda street kazi kawaida, they said go to the street. We decided we are going to take matters in our own hands and we are going to ask for that accountability, and you're going to give us that accountability.
For me, what was different with the current Maandamanos was the way the young people decided to come out and demand for accountability. Previously, if you look at the elections and the analysis that the elections were done, you will realize that we had apathy within the young people. They did not come out to vote. Since time immemorial, we have not had a protest that has been led by the young people. Having the youth come out and speak out their voices of their oppression in terms of no employment, underemployment, corruption, austerity measures. I feel like the youth it is the opportunity they had to be felt, because previously, if you look even at public participation where they give memos, they are not considered. So that was an opportunity for the youth to come out and speak in actions that this is what we are trying to tell the government, because the writings were written on the wall, but the government was still not listening to the young people.
What made this protest outstanding is because the large number of young people who showed up. something that actually I took part in it, and when I stepped in the streets, the faces that I was meeting were very new. These are not the same faces that I was meeting in these spaces of public participation. These were new faces, and actually I kept asking myself, are these young people from this country? Because we are used to see young people in these spaces of public participation. There are those from the village, but these young people who came out were very well articulated, well dressed, okay, and actually the middle class. Something outstanding about this protest is the middle class. The middle class came out in large number, and the ailing of any nation is the silence of the middle class. But this time we saw middle class coming out, articulating issues, until even the poor, those who are unfortunate, they could see we are speaking the same language with those who, they are tracked as middle class. So when the middle class speak, they speak for both for the poor and also for the rich. So one thing that stood out is the use of music in this protest. I loved how young people incorporated all this with, relieving their stress with music, Even I know majority of them came out because of music, all right? So, and iPhones and all that. Yes. The previous mandamanos, we have been here, we have seen who are the people who are the mandamanos, not these young people. We couldn't see music, but these young people, young, old, beautiful ladies, handsome men, young ones, educated, they stepped out and said that enough is enough. We need to be heard.
And they actually carried flags.
Yes, and the flags and all that. It was just different.
Previously, we were just in tear gas. But this one was colored, the national colors.
And the sufurias and all that. But this one was it was something else.
Yes,
true. It was something
and
else.
people were still protesting with their phones.
Yeah, but also what really stood out that I feel like we missed to mention was the peacefulness of the protest before it was hijacked by whoever hijacked it. But you see, for people like us who went to the mandamanos first days, like businesses were open and people were demonstrating and nobody was interested in going and ruining anyone's business. And I think for us, in the history of Mandamano, that was a first, because most time when people, riot or go for demos in the streets, people used to close shop because of,
destruction of property.
Exactly, destruction of property, or, the kuibiwa, or they go and pick your stuff, and, people used to get harassed and everything. But before the whole thing that happened on 25th, the whole demo was just peaceful. People knew why they were there, and people kept chanting, "We are peaceful protesters. We are peaceful protesters." And you'd come to town, utakula tiagasi yako, but uende your biashara. Like you would just come and businesses were working, things were just working, watatus were doing their job, and nobody was actually. The town was just working with just a little bit of chaos.
And also something that was different that I saw was how businesses were offering things like water to the protesters, support. You can imagine people are out, and these businesses, in normal times, they'll be like, watu wanatuharibia kazi. But the same businesses are the ones who are supporting the demonstration by giving them water.
And places to hide.
And also another thing that stood out, it is our how can I put them? Our entertainers.
Influencers.
Our influencers. They came out in large numbers, something that we have never seen before. The previous mandamanos, you could all see nameless, calligraph, wahoo, stepping out mandamano, akina Abel Mtua, akina Abel, Jugush. But this time, they came out in large number. That was very different. And that gave now the protest a good face.
And then just to add on that, another thing we also saw was the coordination of different professions. You understand? Like the way the doctors came, they partnered and they were giving, like free medical care to the injured. And there were places that were designated for water, and you knew that. And then the way Jamia Mall, the Jamia The hotel, yes, was giving free food to the people who were hungry. For me, that was the height of humanity, because I was like, I've never seen that happen in protest. So you knew if you went and you got injured. And also there was the willingness of the people. We were together. Like if somebody was shot, you could see people were rushing to their aid. Si kama kitambo when mtu angepigwa maandamano, everybody was running for kila mtu, God for us all, But at least this time we could see that when somebody was injured, even the protesters could go back and pick the person and ensure that they were taken to, those medical places where we were being given the medical care. And that really helped in the maandamano. Ilipatia watu hope. Even if I went and something happened to me, at least I'm not alone. I'm actually with people. And that's the spirit that I feel like really drove the maandamano to where it went to.
Also, let us contribute as more as we can. Another thing that stood out, it was the communication among the protesters.
The social media too.
Even apart from that, on ground, we had another protest at Moi Avenue. We had another one at around at Huduma Center. Now there was a way that people were communicating that this side is safe.
Yeah.
This side is not safe. Using the Zello app. And how we communicated, it was very organized, and yet it was organic. Even me, someone that I was not in the panel of organizing it, I jumped into the communication telling people that, ni kumoto ile side, tendeni hivi. So the coordination and the communication, it worked.
Beautiful insight. So now, I really love the fact that all of us here went for the maandamanos physically. Si ile kwa tu keyboard warrior and all that. So if we were to place you guys in a meditation chamber for some self-introspection on matters anti-finance bill 2024 protests, then later on we ask you, what really motivated you to participate in the protests? What would your answer be? Disclaimer, don't lie on a public platform. Kidanganya tutakushtaki kwa Mungu.
Mine was, one was to exercise my democratic right in accordance to Article 37 of the Constitution. The other one was to improve my life and express my frustration with this government, because if you look at what they had promised during the campaigns and what we've been given is totally different. We've received like 5%, and what we've not received, and what we highly doubt that the words were spoken and we are going to be put into actions, it's 95%. So I felt like the ground had a space for me to express myself and to put out my hope for future, having seen other people protest with me. So I knew I'm not alone. So I needed that space where I will see that we are many people who want to express and to have a future that is hopeful, having coming together.
So what motivated me to go for protest? Okay, truthful speaking, this was also my first time to go for maandamano. So, so I went. But I feel like for me, what really made me go for the maandamano was ile part yenye KRA. Nilijua KRA wanataka kuingia to check my balance. For me, I felt violated because I felt like I don't have privacy. It's like a peeping Tom. So I was feeling niko na simu yangu hapa, and then somebody who can just sit and say, "Wacha niangalie huyu msichana, how is she transacting?" And for me, out of everything and that and the period, because for me, I'm a champion of sexual reproductive health. So for me, I was like, those are the key two things that actually made me to go to the protest, because I did not understand the thought process of this government and who helped them draft the finance bill and what were they using to come up with those laws. Because I felt like as a country that is already struggling, we cannot go down certain routes. Personally, for me it was very personal. It was not even about the land rates and whatever. I was just thinking, because you said we should not lie, right? So I'm being very truthful. So for me, first of all, was the carry, and the other thing was the pads. that one, because that's a debate we still have till today, why the pads are not free while we have condoms. Anyway, that's another discussion for another day. But for me, those are the two key things that actually made me go to the street. But I also felt like mi nilikuwa nasikia pia punda amechoka. Unaona, I've always felt like this government, since it came into office, it has been very oblivion to the voices of the masses. You know, they do things the way they think should be done, without caring if it's affecting the public or not. And so when the maandamano was there, for me it was a voice, it was a chance for us to tell them, we are not just going to sit down and let you guys run the country the way you feel. Like, this is not your house. This is a country with people, and we have needs and we have concerns, and they need to be listened to when we are voicing them out. And so the maandamano was giving us that platform to air that frustration. So uko na sira unapiga nduru uko na hiyo tear gas, and then you feel the release, you know. And because most of us felt like we didn't have much to lose, we were ready to be on the street every single day. You are a young unemployed Kenyan. What the hell do you have to do with your time, right? So for me, those are the key reasons why I was on the street.
One of the reasons why I went to the street is because I was energetic as a young man. I wanted to go and throw my legs out there, you know, throw my head, you know. Yeah, I had a lot of energy to waste. But apart from that, that's just on a lighter note. The reason why I went to the streets is to understand how is it possible that we have this issue articulated at the national level, and yet in our devolved governments we are not seeing the same. What is this that is making people jump that step? So the reason why I went to the street is to understand how we can replicate that movement back to our devolved functions, because our devolved governments are rotten and it needs rescue. So that was one of the reasons. Another reason I went to the streets is to understand why did the young people decide to take this approach, and yet there's other approaches that have been articulated in the Constitution to air our views out, where personally as a young man I can testify that it has not been occupied by the young people. And these are the public participation spaces. Even at the moment, the new finance or the budget cycle has begun. The public participation that has taken place, you can count the young people. So I really wanted to understand, what is this that made these young people come out to demonstrate on the streets, and yet we have other channels of our avenues to articulate our issues, and yet they didn't use them. Because if you could have asked any young man you got on the street, can you give me a copy of your memorandum that you presented to the government regarding your issue, no one could give it to you. You see? So for me, it was just a matter of, understanding why all this agitation were coming from.
So guys, the fear is gone. Yeah. So what other challenges did you face besides the mint flavored tear gas and the gender reveal water sprayed on you?
Just to correct, this one wasn't flavored yet. So we were requesting if the ones for the near future could be mint flavored, chocolate flavored, so that it can spice up the whole maandamano. Yeah. What other challenges did we see? Clearly, the abduction, which was an act of intimidation by the government. When you see, assuming we are like three of us, because you see, most of the time when people are going for maandamano, we were going as a group for the purposes of safety, and in case somebody got arrested, we would know how to trace you and get you out of the cells, right? So if I was walking with these three, this lady and the gentleman, and one of us got abducted and we were on the street, what would that do to me as a protester? I'll be afraid to go to the street tomorrow, so that because I am afraid of what happened to my friends, right? And that's why there was a lot of abduction, which was an act of intimidation, because the government knew when we see people being abducted, they wanted to instill the fear. So when you instill fear, people refuse to show up. right? The turn up. But then, thank you to social media, at least we had provided channels of how if somebody disappeared, tunakutafuta mbio mbio, and I really recommend actually Faith, the LSK president. Like, she was really hands-on in trying to help people get out of jail. That was something that I really liked. But other than that, something else I also saw was that flavored water. You know, the first day, that water wasn't flavored. Hizo maandamano za kwanza, it was just clear water. Then I do not know what was in this other the flavored one, but ilikuwa inawasha mtu. But then you see now, ukimwagia maji unaweza fikiria tu ni kujiwasha, but again, does it have a long term effect? You do not know. Gases, yeah. And then for people like I saw a lady who fainted because alikuwa na asthma na inhale your ya tear gas, akafaint. So what if you were in a space where you umejificha mahali una suffocate na tear gas and there's no one there to help you? You could die. You get? So some of these things, it was actually a violation of our right, considering the fact that the Constitution allows us to peacefully demonstrate on the street, and the government and that police officer who's tear gassing me is actually mandated to protect me and give me the cover that I need. But then we saw that wasn't the case, because the same people who have the mandate to protect us were the same people on the street trying to ensure that tomorrow I'm not there on the street. And the irony is, I'm actually advocating even for his right kwenye amesimama hapo kwa street. Yeah, so
we're in a country that is governed by a rule of law, but it is sad to know that it seems like the Constitution has ranks for people. We have a rank for people who can be jailed for violating certain rights, and we have other segment of people who cannot be asked if they did anything illegal that is not within the rule of law. So one of the challenges we face that we had a constitution, we have a democratic right in accordance to Article 37 to picket, but that right was violated. And then something else was trolling and surveillance. If they know it is Betty Kimani who is somewhere, they know maybe she had leads towards who is funding, so they will follow me up until they get to know who is behind all this. If you remember during the news broadcast, they will say that some people were abducted and they were beaten to death so that they can speak out and say who is funding them. These are some of the challenges that we face, and that was making other people not come out and speak, not have the right to demonstrate. So that right was suppressed, and then something else was repression.
Some of the challenges that I faced or I observed is police brutality, and police ignorance. Earlier we were discussing that the police system should be upgraded so that it can merge, it can synchronize with the people's system. I felt that there's so much ignorance from the police. The police are here to serve us. If they understood what the Constitution is all about, especially Article 37, that citizens have a right to demonstrate, to picket, and to petition, they could understand what the people are doing and protect them. I always have a conversation with my colleagues and tell them the police could have even handled this scenario the best way if they could, understand that these are the people that is enshrined in the Constitution, and they are doing their constitutional rights to demonstrate. So all we need is to protect them. Again, another challenge is, who are the police protecting the people from, if it's not from the people themselves? So again, we had a challenge from the people. The same people that we are agitating issues for are the same people who are being used by politicians to be goons, to come and stop the movement from attaining what it was supposed to attain. So at the end of the day, we are out here as a people trying to demand accountability from the government, and then there is a clique of the people again coming in and saying that whatever you people are doing is not what we stand for. So there was some disunity and disconnection among the people, and especially the young people. I witnessed people breaking into people's shop, and these are the young people. So you ask yourself, what are we trying to solve? We are trying to point fingers at our leaders to demand accountability, and yet we, majority, some of us are not being accountable, are not being responsible. Another thing is a lack of understanding from the government.
Yeah.
The government didn't understand what the people are doing.
Treasonous.
The government didn't understand that it is the responsibility of the citizens to hold the government to account. And accountability looks the way it was portrayed by the Gen Zs. That is accountability. You demand, you do not request. You demand. Because all sovereign power belongs to you people. You have the power. To me, those are the challenges, and I hope that with time we are going to solve, especially the police brutality and ignorance. We need to work on that.
Yeah, because we moved from police force to
police service.
Yeah, we moved from. We should see that difference.
Yeah.
We should see no brutality, but we see service. If the way he said, if we saw the policemen giving security to those people who are demonstrating, then I feel like they are playing their mandate.
To solve.
Yeah.
If you have seen, the citizens actually understand that we transited from force to service. If you saw what the people were trying to do, they were trying to get closer to the police. Because they understood that now it is not about, they are not supposed to be brutal. We moved from force, now we are looking for service. And with that, it made people more comfortable to get closer to the police, even taking selfies with the police. But could you see the police? He's stone-faced. He even doesn't want to smile. Okay? We are trying to get closer to them, and then they're still drifting away from us.
Do the police understand that they're supposed to serve us? Because clearly from the mandamanos, we are not the people they're trying to serve. Yeah. There's another boss that is not us. Because if these people had the guts to tear gas us, shoot us with live bullets, despite the fact that we know that it's against the law, right? Arrest people, and not even arrest you decently. You know, you are being manhandled. Yes, they are manhandling you, and they don't even read for you. You know, and they're not even reading for you a Miranda rights. You know, the ones that you're supposed to be told why you're being arrested. And even I was saying today, you can imagine a police officer in plain clothes and a arrest. You don't even know if you're being arrested or you're being abducted. You understand? Because at the end of the course, he is supposed to actually, you know, identify himself before he arrests you. But sasa mtu amekuja amevaa nguo ya nyumbani, you're not even sure if this is a police officer or this is somebody who's trying to abduct you. But how are you supposed to know that? Because at that time they're already manhandling. You don't even have time to process what is going on. Before you know it, uko ndani, ushaenda uko, and maybe nobody even knows where you are, and that's how people are missing for days without trace.
Do not want to see even guns on streets. Or they can come with the shields and rungus.
I wish to know.
Because listen, we have seen in other countries, Bangladesh, actually people are engaging with the police. The difference between the people and the police is the attires and those shields, all right, and the rungus. Because have you heard anywhere that a police was shot with guns that are from used by thugs? You have not heard of that. But you hear that the police are the ones who are killing citizens who are unarmed. The least that you can do is ukuje tu na rungu, you hit our joints and disable us. But why? Killing us.
Why would they have to hit us?
Yeah. You see.
Why do you have to hit
Exactly. If there is need to use force, then let them use the rungu. Because remember, also these people you're dealing with. Listen, even these people you're dealing with, there's a video that was going around of a police who was being beaten by citizens. Did you see that?
Yes, I saw it.
What if there's that scenario where now citizens are shielding police with bangers and rungus, wanawasalimia. They should be in a position to protect themselves. So what we are saying, if then you need to protect yourself as a police, protect yourself with a rungu. As simple as that. Why should you use a gun and yet citizens do not have guns?
Okay, so you've mentioned something on implementation. Now that the protests have been done, do you feel the government really understood what the youth were asking for?
We were not going to the streets so that we can put other people in office. And especially political figures. We were going to offices to demand for accountability for our taxes that we are sweating out here and paying to the government. We want a government that is accountable to the taxes that we are paying. But it is very sad that the whole thing, the whole protest, the whole exercise of the democratic right, other people got a chance to put themselves in office. That was not the objective. That was not our objective. We want to know how are our taxes being used. Why are we having to take loans from out there when our country is so rich? Such understanding, but not putting other people in office.
When we were protesting, we were not protesting because we want a government of tokenism. Yeah. We don't want people to get into political positions because we feel like we need to be awarded for being on the street. We want people to be in those offices because they have the capability, they have the qualifications to actually occupy those offices. But I feel like people were thinking that when Gen Zs were out there, we want to be given some tokens ya kufanya ni kama inatutuliza. We are not there because we have our people that we want specifically to be put in those offices. What we are trying to say that there are people who are occupying offices and they are not competent to be in those offices, and we want people to be in those offices on merit, not on the fact that I know someone or sijui nini. And you see, again, another thing that really annoyed me, and that's why I'm still saying I don't think these people understood, and I was also heartbroken to see when the citizens still had that kind of thinking when this new cabinet was, because for me, I feel like that was just a move by the president to shush. Because he didn't clearly understand why we were on the street and demonstrating. Because if somebody who has a net worth of 2.2 billion, you are vying for a job, they're going to be paid 1 million. Even in a whole year, you cannot even get half of the money that you already have. So what is your mandate to actually want to occupy that office? What are you trying? You want to tell us you love this country so much that you're willing to take that small amount of money. You're sacrificing your happiness for us. You understand? And so that also shows you there's more to this story than we are being told. And
Article 232, the values and principles of public service. So let me ask you, the panel that you're here, does this government have high standards of professional ethics? Does it?
It doesn't.
Does it have efficient, effective and economic use of resources? That's why we are
that
crying.
Is why we are demanding for accountability.
Is it responsive? Is it prompt, effective, impartial and equitable provision of services? Does it?
No.
When you go to Isle area, the Garissas and all that, they're not getting the services that we're getting here in Kiambu.
They're still marginalized.
Yes. Does this government involve the people in the process of policy making? We were having a discussion that the advertisements in the newspapers, right? How many young people buy newspapers, all right? Is this government accountable for their administrative acts? Are they?
You ask, you disappear.
Are they transparent?
They are very opaque.
So with this, exactly. So another thing. These questions and answers can tell you if actually they understood it. Even they didn't understand that the people are articulating Article 232. They didn't. They were like, these people are leaderless, they are formless, they do not know what they want. If actually the government had professions, they could have brought these to the attention of the president that these people are articulating Article 232. Can you do something about it? But the president was unaware, was clueless.
And I
so,
think,
to me, did it understand what it didn't?
After the dropping of the finance bill, the president assented into law the Appropriation Act. Yeah. Now, let me tell you, an Appropriation Act is an approved budget. A budget is financed by a finance bill. Once the finance bill has been dropped, then it means the budget has no where it can get money. So there was one mistake was to ascend into law the Appropriation Act. If we drop the finance bill, then we could have not signed the Appropriation Act, because now this means we have to get more loans so that we can to supplement what was dropped in the finance bill. So I don't think they still, I don't know, I don't want to use words that, but I want to say that they are still far away from understanding what we are asking for.
As much as I don't want to blame the government for ascending that act, but again, do you know Kenyans, I did not see anyone raise questions about it.
But they don't know.
And that's again another thing. So when we want to ask for accountability and transparency, which is in the article 232, we have to know, to ask.
Yeah, what
you
are we
understand?
asking for?
Because if we are asking and we are not aware, then that's how these resources are embezzled, because we are not being, we are for a long time, what we are trying to address now has been systematic corruption that has happened for years, generations, that we have formed a system that has been working. That for us to be able to solve corruption in this country, we have to dissolve all the system and everyone has to be disbanded and go home. And then we start afresh. You understand? Because this corruption system is so systematic that it's just not a person. Even, I was saying, even for us, how many times do we engage in corruption? Even kids, just at home, kwa nyumba, unataka mtoto akuache ufanye kazi, unampatia simu. Unaona? Unatafuta njia, that is corruption. Unabribe mtoto apate something else.
But like mwambia, don't do it. Just don't do it.
You understand? Yeah. And it's so systematic that even us, we don't understand that is being done. So when we want to start to ask for accountability from government and those kind of institutions, even the citizens, they themselves have to be aware. People think finance bill ilikuja hii mwaka. Finance bill has been there all along. By the time we were rioting on the street, this is something that has started way last year. We were getting to intercept it at the last stage of the implementation. So I asked myself, had it not been a bill that had critical things that were affecting critical people,
it wouldn't have become.
Would we be having this kind of conversations right now? So it means we'd still be in the same state that we were before. And then now that also begs the question, who is to blame sometimes? Is it the government? Or is it the citizen? Or it's a shared responsibility of blame?
Many citizens think that their responsibility ends at the ballot box. But it is actually where it starts. Once we vote in new leaders, we expect them to perform in accordance with our expectations and what they promised.
From your answers, I believe it's safe to ask the question, in whose hands are we safe?
In God's hands.
But you're also in our own hands, you're not safe.
Yeah, that's so true. So during the protests, we saw that social media was such a powerful tool. So, in your opinions, what are the disadvantages and maybe the advantages of social media during protests?
One disadvantage of social media that I witnessed, you see with social media, there are pseudo accounts. So you might be participating in a conversation and you see 190,000 people. Are those actually people? Are they? Or are these computers? All right? That is a disadvantage. And I always advocate for physical public participation, because this one you cannot duplicate it. So that was one of the advantages that I really figured out. That you might be in a space, an next space, and see 20,000 people and think, wow, it has a movement. But actually, you might find these are just 100 people with different laptops on their desks getting into the space, and you think these are people. Another thing that I witnessed are those people who, they're called keyboard warriors. They were just on the space, on the internet. But majority of them coming to the ground, fighting for what they are preaching in the digital space, it was unlike of them. So I felt that then they could be hybrid. We do the physical one, so that after we put names on faces or faces on names, okay? But this one was just, and then even if you go to those spaces and ask for the mic, they don't give you the mic. They give people who they know.
Oh, yes.
And they go to their profile and see that you have 23,000 you are an influencer. But if you have 230,
another disadvantage or risk is that this vicious smearing of character. You are judged with charges that you have not even had on this earth. So, and then the other things that you are trolled, you keep being followed. Like, for example, like he said that we are having protests in Kiambu on land rates. I was very surprised to see my photo in a group. Because if somebody who was told, mfuate, mjua anaenda wapi, anafanya nini, you see, you are being trolled. So, you even at risk because you don't know what they are trolling you for. And then the other one is character assassination. You are told you have done things you don't even know they exist. So we have so many challenges that come with this digital spaces of expression.
And the advantages maybe?
The advantages is that there is a wide coverage, and even those people at the grassroots are able to know what is happening. And then there is real coverage, the real-time coverage. And then the other advantage is that you get people blogging for the same content, and then this wide coverage. Na sio mtu amewapatia kazi, unaambiwa una blog, una post, una retweet, search.
So with social media, you'll find there's a lot of misinformation and a lot of disinformation. So misinformation is where people spread a news or an information. They are not sure if it is factual or not, but they're just spreading it. You know, like mtu anasema tu, mwambao msipite Kiambu Road, sijui nini inafanyika, and then they're sharing out of goodwill, but they are not sure if it is true or not. So there's a lot of misinformation that happens on social media. Then you also have the aspect of disinformation. This is the purposeful, sharing of information that you know that it is false, but you just go ahead and still say, well, maybe you have an agenda. Come these people who are used by politicians to actually steer off people from the main course. They are going to use a lot of people to use a lot of misinformation and disinformation so that they can bring that confusion. So people are not aware, is this true, is this not true? So it also brings the aspect of fear, right? And then also feel like social media does a lot of exclusion. You see, we assume that the fact that we are privy to have phones, these advanced technological phones that we can tap, and we are on TikTok, and I have the fact that I can afford data and be able to afford network. I have network to actually be on site and see things as they're happening on the ground. That is something that is only privilege to the people in the urban and probably the peri-urban spaces. We are saying ushago siku hizi the rural areas ziko nazo, but unataka kuniambia mtu ambaye ako Marsabit uko ndani ya Turkana, are they getting the information in real time the same way you are getting? You understand? So if somebody is not taking that information to them, hata wangapi wako na simu touch screen, that is ya kuingia TikTok, do they even know how to use those social media apps in the first place for them to be able to understand how to get that kind of information? Are they literate? Do they know how to read, to understand some of these things? Unanipata? So I feel like it excludes a lot of people from the marginalized population, the illiterate. And that's why these conversations are happening in urban spaces. But we are still living a huge population underrepresented pale nyumbani. Wale watu ambaye hawana simu, wama mtoko na simu na nikaduda, somebody cannot afford internet because hana kazi, ama hana bundle. The people who join bundles ndio anaenda ku hijack wifi ya mtu pale chini. So wakati huo mtu maybe amezima wifi ama stima hakuna, they are not able to get those information in real time, and they could be critical information. So I feel like social media that inapeana that kind of exclusion, because if it was face to face, I just need my body to be present and understand what's going on.
So also there's that exclusion. Also exclusion from people with disability. How many are able to hear that conversation? Do they have special tools, interpreters, to interpret these conversations? Do they have different tools to enable them to join these spaces? So I feel that online has advantage and disadvantage, but to balance, we need to have a hybrid where their disadvantages are covered by the physical advantages of.
Wow, that's so very much well expounded. As we conclude, what advice would you give to other young people looking to engage more deeply in civic activities and policy making?
My advice to the young people will be one, just like the way nobody tells me to wake up and go to church. It's the same way they should wake up and participate in these policy making spaces. Like, for example, in public participation. So let us have representation of the young people in these spaces, so that when I speak on behalf of my demography. When I speak on behalf of the unheard voices behind me. And the other thing is, I would want to tell the youth is that we, even as, like, for example, right now we are in the formulation stage of the next budget cycle for the next financial year at the county level, and I think at also the national level. What have they done? Where are they? What is limiting them from participating? Because this lack of them not showing up in public participation, the end result is the protests are there. So let the youth come out and demand for their space in decision making. Let them also make sure that their voices have been heard. Let them also make sure that they have done submissions to represent what they want in terms of the youth space. And let them also come out and participate in the budget making process, so that in future we know that these decisions were made in the inclusion of the young people.
For any sustainable project, for any project to be sustainable, the people must own the project. And for if there is to be any permanent change in the way we view how the country is run and in how we want to get involved in governance and democratic processes, we need to learn to own this process ourselves. We got into this journey because of the maandamano and the protests, right? Because of the finance bill. And maandamano will not always be the solution all the time. It worked this time, but it might not work every single time to give us the results that we want. So how about we start the conversation before it gets to a point where we need to go to the street? And how do we get to be part of the conversation? Let the conversation start at home. That's why I feel like the disconnect is, I'm coming to public participation, I'm leaving my dad and my mom at home. Why? Or the dad and the mom is coming to a public participation, you've left your kids at home and they are voters. You understand? So the conversation needs to start at home. People need to understand why we are encouraging people to be part of the process, because by the time we were getting into the finance bill protests, we were at the last stage. This is something that could have been stopped last year if only we had been engaged. But for a long time, the youth particularly, I felt like this is something that did not affect them. But what people do not understand, any budget cut trickles down to the commonest of person, kule kijijini. You understand? When young people have to engage in platforms where they sell their nudes to get a source of living, it's because the government has failed in providing employment opportunity that a degree holder would have to resort to, to sell their content so that they can actually survive on basic minimums.
First, I'd like to tell the young people, let us take charge in matters of our counties, right? Let us create people's platform in our respective wards and take charge. If 100 young people can come out and say, this is where we will be meeting to do civic engagement, then why will other people not follow you? So I'm asking young people to come out in large numbers, especially in their wards, to create spaces, people's spaces in these wards, for them to have an effective and objective engagement with the government that they elected. This is the only door that will allow the people to engage with the government. Also, I'd like to request the young people to dominate the public participation spaces. Let us see more young people in these spaces. Let us see, when we are doing our priorities, let us see priorities that are being pushed by the young people taking precedence than those that have always been there. Another thing I'll add, take IDs. Those who are in high school that are going to clear this year, make sure when you come out, take ID. After you take ID, do the registration for being a voter. Because change is going to come only through the ballot democracy.
So the youth, aliye na masikio na asikie. Long live the spirit of Ubuntu.
Viva.
Organize, organize, organize.
Organize to take power.
Organize, organize, organize.
Organize to take power. Viva, comrades. So, yeah, thank you so much. Before we sign off, our listeners might want to follow you, to connect with you. So, would you please share your social media handles?
My social media handles are at Betty Kimani on Facebook and at Twitter the same at Betty Kimani, at Betty_Kimani. And for the organization that I represent, it is Bunge Mashinani School of Governance. I don't think we have any other school of governance in Kenya, so when you Google that, you just get to see the school itself. So, and karibuni sana.
My personal handles, Facebook is at Moshori John. Twitter X is under X is official Moshori 1. TikTok is _Moshori. And for my organization is at Bunge Mashinani Initiative. Follow. F for F.
For my personal handles on Twitter, I go by Kimberly Fiona 4 at Kimberly Fiona 4. And for my LinkedIn profile, that would be at Kimberly Okiri. Yes. So for my organization, so at Twitter and at Facebook as well, we are at CFA Global. So if you look for us at CFA Global, you'll find us both on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram.
So to our guests, when I saw you walk in, I was like, damn, they look so sharp. But after listening to your thoughts, they are even sharper. Thank you so much, guys, for heeding to our call and giving your very powerful insights. And to our people, please subscribe to our channel, like, share, and comment down below on the kind of content you'd like us to share and the kind of guests you'd like us to bring on board. Thank you. Until next time. Bye.
Bye.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Viva.
Viva.